All right, JD here for 90s Sports Nostalgia. Thank you for your interest in this video. I just greatly appreciate it. Go ahead, subscribe, like, share, and I appreciate all the support. So, thank you very much. So, Kwame Brown, of course, he's been making a lot of news lately. And I always wanted to do a video about high schoolers entering the NBA draft in the late 90s and early 2000s. I was like, okay, this is a perfect time, or this is a very good time. And I'll talk more about Kwame Brown in the 2001 NBA draft. But first, started in 1995. At this time, except in 1975, high schoolers weren't entering the NBA draft. I mean, Chris Webber came out, entered the draft as a sophomore, and so did Jason Kidd as sophomore. But mostly, people would enter the NBA draft as juniors. So Kevin Garnett, he didn't qualify academically to go to college, so he entered the draft as a high schooler, got selected 5th overall. And then Kobe Bryant in 1996 NBA draft, he got selected 13th overall coming out of high school. Jermaine O'Neal was 17th. And then for the 1997 NBA draft, Tracy McGrady was 9th overall. So real quick, with these players, I just want to look at their careers. They all kind of struggled at the beginning. They had a rough start to their careers. But Kevin Garnett's second season was an all-star. And then at the 2000-2001 NBA season, he was an elite player. Kobe Bryant, same thing. He struggled his second season. He was an all-star. That's a questionable decision. But he was an all-star. He was not an all-star in his third year, but arguably could have been an all-star that season. But anyways, the point is, by the 2000-2001 NBA season, he was an elite player. Jermaine O'Neal, I'm going to get to later on. And Tracy McGrady, once again, he had a rough start, but then he improved in his 3 years in Toronto. Then his fourth year, he went to Orlando. This is 2000-2001 season. In Orlando, he was an elite player, just a tremendous scorer. So then let's go 1998 NBA season. And, around this time you see in their second seasons, Garnett, Kobe, and you can see Tracy getting better. Getting these very good players, not necessarily number one and number two in the draft. That these high school players, yeah, they have rough starts, but then they really turn into really good players. So I am going to say this, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Indiana Pacers, obviously, but this is just what it seemed, in that Indiana, they had an aging roster, and once that roster has to disperse, building an NBA team or starting over, rebuilding, can be a very difficult thing, get very ugly. So the Indiana Pacers, I don't know, but this is just how it seemed to me, that they're looking and seeing these high school players not being selected number 1, 2, and 3 later on, that wow, they're doing pretty good. So for the 97 NBA draft, the Indiana Pacers, they selected a high schooler in Al Harrington. Al Harrington, more his third and fourth season, he wound up getting more minutes. A good player, real solid player for the Pacers. And also in that draft, before I get more into the Indiana Pacers, there was also Rashard Lewis, 6'10" guy who can really shoot from the outside. And then Corleone Young, who was also drafted in the second round. I used to get all those preseason magazines about college basketball and all that, and he was the number one prospect, the number one high schooler, and he was drafted in the second round. Didn't really have much of an NBA career. But anyways, back to the Pacers. Then for the and that was the 1998 NBA draft. I'm sorry if I said 1997, but 1998 NBA draft, they had Al Harrington, Corleone Young, and Rashard Lewis. So sorry about that. So 1999, Indiana Pacers are going to say, okay, let's try this high school thing again. So the Raptors, they had the 5th overall selection. They selected Jonathan Bender. Now, the Pacers, they decided to trade Antonio Davis to the Raptors for Jonathan Bender, who was a high schooler. I think he was 7 foot, very athletic. And it didn't work out necessarily for the Pacers. And I remember some Pacers, I forgot who exactly, but some Pacers, they weren't too happy about the trade. We're a championship contending team. How do you trade Antonio Davis for a high schooler? Which is understandable. So for the 1999 NBA season, like I said, Jonathan Bender was 5th overall, went to Pacers. Then there was Leon Smith. He was 29th, I think. So then for the 2000 NBA draft, now Darius Miles, he was selected 3rd overall. This was the highest a high schooler has ever been selected. And Deshaun Stevenson, I think he was 23rd. He had a long NBA career. He was very athletic and good defensively. Darius Miles, his career wasn't quite as long, as he had a serious knee injury, I think after year 6 or 7 in the NBA. But anyways, the point is that I'm going to go back to Jermaine O'Neal now. Jermaine O'Neal, his first 4 seasons at Portland, it was rough because Portland was so deep. They had a lot of talent. It was tough for Jermaine to get some minutes. But Indiana, they went ahead. They traded Dale Davis to Portland, and Portland sent Jermaine O'Neal. And Jermaine O'Neal finally got some minutes, and he played really well. I'll start by saying he played really well in 10 rebounds a game. He was blocking shots. Later on, after the 2000-2001 NBA season, he would start to score like 22 points a game, and he wound up being one of the better power forwards, better centers in the NBA, and a tremendous shot blocker. So, like I said, for the 2000-2001 NBA season, Tracy McGrady, elite. Kevin Garnett, elite. Kobe Bryant, elite. And Jermaine O'Neal was on the track to being really good. So, here are 2001 NBA draft. And I remember the mock drafts that they all had like Kwame Brown, Tyson Chandler, Eddie Curry going like in like those top 3 picks. And I was like thinking like, because like what I saw like, and what I'm sure many people say is like, wow, these high schoolers, they're drafted like 9th overall, 13th overall, and they want to be in like elite players. And I wonder if the people do like the mock drafts or whoever like decide, okay, we've got to rate these high schoolers a little bit higher. So for this 2001 NBA draft, I don't know, I was thinking like Tyson Chandler was going to be, that was the talk, I think Tyson Chandler was going to be top overall pick. I liked Eddie Curry just from this point is because being from Chicago area and same thing with Eddie Curry, watch him play. He had some offensive moves. And that's the thing, like with Kwame Brown and Tyson Chandler, all that you see, like they didn't have any YouTube, they didn't really broadcast high school games. All that you really saw were just highlights, and you can't really judge a player from highlights. And of course, there are men amongst boys, like 6'11", 7 foot high school players, just like blocking every shot and dunking over everyone. But anyway, so for 2001 NBA draft, Kwame Brown, he got selected 1st overall by the Wizards. Number 2, Tyson Chandler by the Clippers. But then the Bulls traded Elton Brand to the Clippers, and they received Tyson Chandler. And then Eddie Curry went 4th, and Sagana Diop, I forgot what he went. He went in the top 10. And he was also another high schooler. And this draft, it also had a lot of like intriguing freshmen like Gerald Wallace, Zach Randolph, my man from the Charlotte 49ers. I used to like Charlotte 49ers in the 90s. Rodney White and Eddie Griffin, who also had a lot of promise. He was a very highly touted prospect coming out of high school. But anyways, this draft had also had Jason Richardson, and then not a lot of like upperclassmen. Like it was Richard Jefferson and Shane Battier. And Jason Richardson, he was a sophomore. So anyways, that was the draft. Now, supposedly what the situation was is that Jordan wanted to trade Kwame Brown to the Bulls for Elton Brand. And interestingly, Jerry Krause is still the GM of the Bulls at that time. But it didn't go through. Now, Jordan wanted to do it, and this is from an article from Bleacher Report, and also Kwame Brown stated this on some of his YouTube content. Jordan wanted to trade Kwame Brown to the Bulls for Elton Brand, which does make sense because, like, this is like Jordan. Like, the guy doesn't seem too patient, can be tough. Why would he want to wait for a high schooler to develop? But supposedly, like, from that article, what happened is that Washington management and the owner, Abe Pullen, they wanted to keep Kwame Brown. A lot of it had to do with marketing, being the first high schooler ever drafted 1st overall. And then this is why, if you want to be a good owner, do nothing. What I mean by that is stay out of the way of the basketball people. As you can imagine, Kwame Brown being selected 1st overall, going to the Wizards, and having Jordan there, who really doesn't have patience, who really wants to win. And then later on, he went to the Lakers, and probably tough also playing with Kobe, but I don't really know. But it's probably something that we can imagine. So that is the situation of what happened. Now, I just want to get to then, Dwight Howard and LeBron James, they're successful #1 draft pick overall out of high school. But like after this draft, as you see, it didn't quite pan out with Kwame Brown. Now, Tyson Chandler, he had a long NBA career, a great defensive player, very athletic, good at getting lobs and offensive rebounds. And Eddie Curry, he showed he could score in the NBA, and there's some jokes about Eddie Curry and all that, but he had a decent career, Eddie Curry. But anyways, as time went on, is that high schoolers, they weren't being drafted this high really too much. I mean, high schoolers, they're mostly starting to be drafted in like the teens, like Sebastian Telfair, and in the 20s, like Travis Outlaw, and so forth. And it was like there was that 3-year period with 95, 96, 97, that there just happened to be just like 4 tremendous talented high school players in Bryant, Garnett, Jermaine O'Neal, and Tracy McGrady. And I just want to kind of give an overview about high schoolers in the NBA drafted in the 90s and 2000s. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it, and I hope all is well, and take care. Thank you.